Hello and welcome. Today we're talking about Furina. Furina is the Hydro Archon? Question mark, exclamation mark? Yeah, sort of the Hydro Archon. But you'll have to do the Archon quest and her story quest to get to the bottom of that particular statement. For today, let's discuss her as being the Hydro Archon. And she is a new character that buffs damage, as well as doing a fairly healthy amount of damage herself. She's a Hydro user, and she does a fair amount of off-field damage. She's not really an on-field damage dealer, at least until you get her to C6, and then a bit like Yelan, she becomes fully cracked on-field as well as off. Now that is not the case for me. I do not have C6, so I do not have that level of on-field damage. For me, she's all about off-field. So let's have a quick look at what she does. Her skill has two modes. She has damage mode, where she summons these three little minion people who basically do a healthy amount of damage. They apply Hydro fairly frequently, and they attack at different intervals. You have short, medium and fast. And they've got their own sort of AI, so you know they may well actually go over and find those two over there. And no, there you go. You see, they've started battling. Oh, and you'll notice that my entire party's health is now only 50%, which has caused me a fair amount of trouble in terms of team building. In order to do more damage, the minions will basically buff Furina's skill damage. So every time they hit, they're going to take it down. Basically, however many team members you have that are over 50%, that's going to buff the damage by, I think it's something like 10, 15, 25 or 40%. It's something like that. And then you've got healing mode. So if you do a charged attack, she'll swap into the other version, where she summons the Singer of Many Waters, I believe it is. And as you can see now, it's ticking along for a pretty decent amount of healing, actually. So yeah, I mean, the only problem is if you use her in healing mode, she won't apply Hydro and she won't do any damage. All she'll do is heal. So I'm just going to heal the team back up. It's a reasonably rapid process, but this is a fairly tanky team when it comes to hit points. Oh, I forgot to mention one nice thing about her skill is the cooldown is 20 seconds, but the uptime is 30 seconds. So that's great. I almost forgot to mention she can walk on water. So you see that guy there? We don't have to worry about him. Boop. Provided her skill is active in either form, she can just go for a jog on water. And because her skill has 100% uptime, it means you can cover water like a wave rider, basically. Like, let's go over here. I don't know what's over here. Do you know what's over there? I don't. Let's just go. See? Don't have to worry about running out of stamina. It's just, it's the ultimate in water open world exploration benefit. Oh, I don't even know where I'm going. Just remember to refresh that skill, otherwise you could find yourself in the middle of the ocean. Once you're in the water, you can't get back out of it. Now you might be wondering why I've got Dehya on the team, and in a nutshell, it's because I like to be able to break rocks. Otherwise, what happens is I tend to think, I'll just run past. Because you can sort of do plunging attacks into rocks and break them that way, but it's a problem for me. Then what happens is I find myself not having anything like enough actual crystals, refinement ore, which means that it's resources are a big problem because I have lots of characters and I'm trying to build them all. I mean, particularly on this team, I've had to supply Dehya with an entirely new set. I've had to raise up Charlotte. I've actually got a C6 Charlotte, so she's got potential, but we're not there yet. Layla, I had to sort of get her out and dust her off. I haven't used her for a while, but I needed the cryo resonance and I wanted a shield. And I could have used Diona, in fairness, and perhaps many would, but I haven't. Right, we need to find a more challenging boss so we can actually see what this team can do, and then we will talk about exactly how it is built. I actually need to do this thing anyway, so let's This the gravity generator thing. Charlotte needs it, and I've got to do this about 10 times, something like that. So, yeah, this is a good one to start with. Might even get to see Dehya doing her thing. Ah, I missed the shield. Right, so there's Furina's burst. She's now going to be buffing everybody. Or at least she will. Once we've had some health point changes. And... no, it's gone. Where's it gone? Come back. There we go. Come on, Dehya, you can do it. I hate this thing. Ouch. That hurts.
The night is cold. Shower me with rain. Stars shine for me. Hold that pose. Right to you. Let the world come on.
Oh yeah, so I'm kind of using Charlotte in a bit of an on-field capacity here. Let's just put this thing to bed because it's, you know... there we go. And you can see the visual indicator around the screen. That is Furina's burst. Oh, 3 drops. Always nice. See, I'm on 5 out of 20, so hence why I needed to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's this team works, but I have struggled to find a team with available characters that really works with Furina. I thought she'd be easy, but what I hadn't taken into account is how damaging that health drain is from her skill. It is ruinous if you don't have, well, ideally, some damage reduction and a strong shield and a great healer. Well, Charlotte is a good healer, but she doesn't heal very well over time, but I mean, she's a great healer, so there is that. And Dehya's damage mitigation is extremely helpful on this team. So yeah, I am a big fan of Dehya in this team. I did have Xiangling, and the team definitely did more damage. But the problem was, I kept losing Charlotte. Now, admittedly, that was partly because she wasn't built, you know, even as well as she is right now. But it's just, it's tough. And I had an Animo on here as well, and that was much more damage, but it meant there was no shield. And maybe some people are better at dodging than me. I would imagine that is the case. I don't like to dodge. I just like to be able to face tank it and unleash an unholy amount of damage without having to worry too much about taking a hit. Hence Dehya. She has a shocking energy recharge problem, as you can see. And I mean, Furina, I did use Furina's burst. It was still going at the end of the boss, so you know, that's to be expected. But Charlotte's almost ready to go again. Dehya, not so much. And I actually had missed her out from that last one anyway. Okay, here we go. Let's just dispatch this lot. Got Noblesse Oblige on Layla. I like the fact that this team can freeze so effectively. Oh, I hadn't noticed you over here. Yep, there we go. It's not, how would I put it? This is not the most highly damaging team that I have by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't want to do a Hyper Bloom. You could do, there are loads of different team comps that you could put Furina into, and she would be great. In particular, I think she pairs really well with Baiju. Makes for a very comfortable team. But I wanted something that was not Hyper Bloom. In fact, not Dendro based really. I've got a lot of Dendro based teams. I've got 2 very strong Hyper Bloom teams and a Nilu Bloom team, which basically clear the abyss for me every 2 weeks. But that is not what I wanted this time. Let's have a quick look then. So we have got Furina. She is on Golden Troop. Golden Troop is absolutely her best artifact set by a country mile. Her stats are wanting, but don't forget, every time she hits somebody who's frozen, she's going to get an extra 15% because of the cryo resonance, which is really helpful. And yeah, I mean, the crit damage isn't so bad. Weapons, she's using the Fleuve Sandra Ferryman, which is the pipe, as I like to call it. I do not like the way this weapon looks on her particularly, but as I don't have Festering Desire and I'm not pulling for her signature weapon, this is basically the next best thing. It works quite well. It gives her another 16% crit rate, so you add the 15% from the cryo resonance to the 16% on, and that basically means that her skill is going to be chugging along for somewhere in the almost 80% crit rate, which is, you know, that's not bad. And artifacts wise, I've gone HP, HP, and then crit damage, because she's getting crit rate from various other sources. So that's where her crit damage is coming from. Not a bad feather, and the flowers, not, you know, it's not awful either. I mean, the attack is completely wasted on her. She scales off HP, so that's what you want to be doing there. And talents, I've got her up to 8, and I will obviously be leveling this up. I just lack resources is the fundamental problem there. But we're getting there, we're getting there. The boss was only available last week, so limited opportunities to get level up materials. And that's Furina. Let's have a look at Dehya. She's got the Serpent Spine, it's not leveled up fully. She's got artifacts which are leveled up. I've gone for Tenacity of the Millilith because it gives a bit of attack buff which is useful for Charlotte in particular and Dehya, and also the shield strength buff just to help Layla out as much as possible with that, you know, nice thick shield. Charlotte is on Blizzard Strayer, which makes perfect sense because there's 2 cryos in the team and also a hydro, so there's going to be frozen stuff. As you can see, still need to level up some of these artifacts a fair amount, so she's not doing as much attack as she would be doing. She wants to be energy recharge attack crit damage in this particular case, and that's with a Favonius Codex and her being on field a fair amount, and that way she's getting her burst back pretty quick. So let's talk about how this burst actually works. Furina's burst will basically do an instance of damage, hydro damage, which is based off her max HP, and then for 18 seconds she will build up fanfare, which is basically generated at 1 fanfare per percentage point health change of the entire team. And bearing in mind that her skill is going to knock everyone down to about 50%. So right then and there, you've got 150 fanfare points. Or is that 200 even? I think it might be 200 actually. And then Charlotte heals them all back up, and you'll be basically at full fanfare. And at full fanfare, she'll do at C0 75% extra damage for the whole team. That's elemental damage. It's not going to, it doesn't factor into things like Bloom, Nilu Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon. And it doesn't factor into Swirl or Electrocharge, but it does factor into Vaporize, Melt, and physical damage, I suppose, despite the fact it's an elemental damage bonus, but there we go. And also she gets extra healing bonus for the entire team as well, which is quite handy off this burst. So the burst is useful. It's got an energy cost of 60, pretty cool. And her Ascension 1 passive means that if somebody is healing the team other than Furina and it overflows, then Furina will heal all the team for 2% of their max HP every 2 seconds for the next 4. So it's kind of a little bit of extra team-wide healing, provided you've got enough single target healing to overflow. And her Ascension 4 passive is basically a damage and healing buff based on her skill. It buffs the damage by up to 28% based on 1,000 points of her max HP, so that's basically I think 40,000 HP it caps out at, and a healing bonus up to, basically it's not a healing bonus, it's an interval reduction up to 16% sort of quicker on the healing, which is, you know, nice to have. And her passive talent here is to basically enable the cooldown to be reduced by 30% on all the underwater abilities that you get from the xenochromatic Fontima aberrants. So there's a lot going on with this particular character, and I have, like I said, found her quite tricky. Let's demonstrate that trickiness by going to my favourite testing bad guys, the 4 ruin hunters, graders, whatever they're called. Oh, and it's raining. That seems like it's unfair, actually, if it's raining. It's going to be extra hydro, which is going to make them extra frozen, but yeah, no controlling the weather. Take it from someone who lives in England. This is where I miss Yelan. That is one of the things, right, is does Furina really add that much more than Yelan? And I would say probably yeah, actually. Right, it is raining, so nothing I can do about that. This will come back when it's not raining. I could do that, of course, but I'm not going to. Oh, get out of there!
The night is cold. Don't be scared. Electro lightning, echoing song. Shower me with praise. Look alive. Hard-hitting explosive. For dead meat. Not now.
Yep. That's about how that goes. Luckily, these 4 ruin graders, I believe they are. I actually do not know what they're called. But anyway, those 4 robots, they produce an insane amount of energy, which is the only reason why Dehya has got her burst back. Normally, she wouldn't, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm one of the things I most like about Furina at the moment is her ability to make unused characters more useful. Like, for example, Jean, who I have never successfully used in any team at all, but now actually does have some viability with Furina because of her really good team-wide healing. I mean, there are obviously people have made use of Jean before, but I haven't. And now I get to give that a go. But this is my favourite team that I've found for Furina so far that doesn't involve Hyperbloom. But it would be easy to make a Hyperbloom team. One thing you always want to bear in mind with Furina is that she is going to need a healer. And somebody like Kuki, because they are single target, you know, just the active party member for healing, and on top of that they don't actually heal, she doesn't actually heal that much, so she's really not an ideal choice, which is unusual because I've certainly used her and been extremely happy with her in a lot of different teams. However, no more. Not with Furina, I'm afraid. Somebody who does work very well with Furina is, as I mentioned, the healers that do whole party healing to quite a substantial, basically like 1-button healing. So Jean would work very well, or failing that, Charlotte, who is the person I was using before. I actually like Charlotte. I think she's got great synergy with Furina. She does off-field cryo, so she doesn't have to take up field time if you want to move on to another on-field DPS. Somebody like perhaps Nouvelette, who obviously does extremely well with Furina because the raw elemental damage that he does is just completely buffed by Furina's damage bonus. It's great. I'm not actually going to talk too much about constellations for Furina because, to be honest, I think, you know, basically she just gets a lot stronger, and then when she gets to C6, C4 it sorts out her energy. It basically means that she needs a lot less energy recharge to function well, and C6 allows her to do some on-field damage in a sort of infusing normal attacks and scaling off HP with that kind of way. Very, very similar to the normal attacks with Yelan. And if I was going to build this team, I would do this.
What shall we do?
And then I'll just reorder things a little bit. We'll start with that. Go with that, maybe that. There we go. And this would be a perfectly functional team of absolute mass destruction, quite honestly. Tell you what, let's not do that. That's unfair. Instead, let's go to the Aeon Drake, who I need for Layla's shield. Need to get Layla up to her final ascension, so I have to do the Aeon Drake anyway. And I'm quite confident that this team will do the job extremely easily. This is going to be a short fight. Yep, she's in damage mode.
Hold that pose. Time to shine.
Probably should have done that first. I'm still sort of getting my head around exactly what makes sense from a, you know, actual, what's the word? Oh, look at this. We're going to single rotation it. Yeah. Neuvillette is just such a beast. It's insane, honestly. So he's basically got the Archon's power, hasn't he? That's basically what's going on there. Let's take this. Let's take this thing out while we've got this team on our hands, especially as as it needs a recharge anyway. It's just mad. The level of damage is insane.
Gather. Order guide.
May I present?
Oh, damage mode, please.
Say cheese.
Bow your head. Stabilize.
I'm just going to vaporize it. I actually want everyone to have their bursts up, so I'm not going to use the
Gather.
not going to use their bursts. Unnecessary. But yeah, I mean, basically the key to Furina's kit is the ability to buff other people's elemental damage. That's how she enables other people who were not so well used in the past to suddenly become used characters. The problem is, look at the health on my team. It's only 50% because I didn't use Charlotte's Burst to re-enliven everybody, and that does make the team rather squidgy. Now, because of the way Neuvillette's skill works, with the source water droplets healing him back up and then his charged attack draining himself down, that works really well. There's a great synergy there with Furina because it helps stack fanfare for her. So yeah, there we go. One of the reasons I want to steer clear of doing a Furina Hyperbloom team is because she's not going to buff that damage with her burst, so although it'll work just fine. Her little minion people are going to apply hydro and generate cores, and then Cookie or whoever can zap them, but it's not it isn't making the most use of her kit, and I kind of feel like her kit is almost designed to steer you away from Hyperbloom, which has been a, you know, and rightly so, an extremely used team comp. It's just so easy and requires so little investments to make it high damage. But I also think it's a little boring. The fact that Dehya now has an actual use is, I think, mind-blowing. Incredible, really. Always wanted. I've got C1 Dehya as well, so I wanted to use her. I would love C2. C2 Dehya is where she starts to really make sense. Her uptime is appalling on her skill until you have C2. And then you basically got 2 seconds of downtime, which is not so very bad. If you're looking for an energy recharge target for Furina, I would recommend, yeah, about 180 to 200, depending on whether you've got a good Favonius user on the team. So Charlotte here is actually holding the R5 Favonius codex that my account has. So that means quite a lot of extra energy can be generated that way, thankfully. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, remember to leave a like and subscribe, because that really helps my channel out. I'm trying to grow it. It's kind of on the diddly side at the moment, but I want to make it, you know, bigger and better. I love Genshin. I've got loads of characters, and I'm, to be honest, I'm doing this because my girlfriend would prefer me to not talk incessantly about Genshin to her, although she does also play Genshin, so it's not, you know, it's not entirely one-sided. Anyway, hope to see you in the next video.